Ready?
Hi, I'm Guido Bondioli. I want to talk to you a little bit about how I see the art having developed over time so that we understand where we are in the moment and what all these exercises we're leading into mean. I think that art began many years ago, but let's just take as an arbitrary figure, 25,000 years. And we've all seen these images made in caves. Somebody caught some animal, they have it on a fire, the fat runs out into the charcoal, they take a stick out of the edge that's covered with fat and charcoal, and they scratch an antelope figure on the wall. And they mush up a bunch of white mud in their mouth, and they put their hand on it and go, and it makes a handprint. It's magical. It helps them catch the antelope. I think that not much changed worldwide since then and now most places. However, in Europe, and with accidental occurrences here and there in other cultures, but in Europe, there became an interest in how things worked visually. This was certainly well underway by 1400 in the leadership. Lost my glasses. The leadership was Brunelleschi. Let me see if I can write that. Brunelleschi, in the mid-1300s into the early 1400s, and his main contribution was that he formalized perspective, that system of patterning lines that causes an illusion in space that most of us are aware of, diminishing roadways, diminishing telephone lines, diminishing whatever to some kind of vanishing point. Brunelleschi's the guy that made that an artistic standard. And it was certainly in place almost everywhere in Europe by 1400. One of his associates, he wasn't even a painter, by the way, really. He was a goldsmith and an architect. But he was very interested in optics and understood how the eye worked. One of his younger associates, a guy named Masaccio, I'll write that too. Masaccio discovered that spatial illusions could be made. Spatial illusions, just like those of Brunelleschi, they could be made by dark and light contrast. And it took probably 50 years, but within 50 years, anyone who was serious in Europe could do it. Then there was Rembrandt. Certainly by 1665 or so, Rembrandt had discovered that the eyes work independently and that a spatial illusion can be created by dark and bright as well as dark and light contrast. It was a terrific advance and spread through Europe like the bubonic plague or something. Soon every serious artist could do it. 200 years went by, and Cézanne was aware of it. You know, but just to be clear, I'll write Cézanne. Cézanne. By the mid-1800s, Cézanne had discovered that the eye functions both in a blue note and a red note, in dark and light, dark and bright, and it responds to perspective. So he endeavored to create pictures in two-tonal layers, a reddish sort of layer and a bluish sort of layer that interacted. And that became standard. Certainly Van Gogh, Gauguin, Seurat, Cézanne. And he was really aware that he had discovered something new. He said that every election there was a new politician. There was a new Cézanne only every 200 years. And that's because he understood what happened with Masaccio, he understood what happened with Rembrandt, and he understood what he was doing, this thing he had discovered, the two-tonal layer. Very shortly thereafter, and probably because the people met each other and spoke to each other, and it's hard to say who was first, whether it was Kandinsky or Matisse or perhaps even Monet. People began to do five-tonal layers. And that's really because it's consistent with how our brains are organized, that we have some tissues in the hypothalamus that cause us to see things in five layers: the near ground, the near mid, the far mid, and forever. And it's called five-tonal layers in art, and frequently colors are associated with that. I want to show you what it looks like, and I can do that very quickly. If I make a form, it really gives you no information about where it is, and it forces you into what it is questions. I want to take you into vision and present something that keeps you involved in where it is. Come, position, and it refers to where it is in space. So I'm going to put something behind it. Now I have three layers. One layer, two layer, three layers. And I'm going to just repeat that trick, because I know it works. One layer, two layer, three layer, four layer. If I do it again, you will have a visual experience and it'll be boring. And so very soon you'll return to what is it questions. And I want to keep you involved in the playground of vision. So I'm going to give you something a little ambiguous. Now I've given you several ways to see it in five layers because I've created a transparency here. Many ways. And I can do something called double ground, which I will put in. The thing which gives this exercise its force is that every time I marked in the lower layer.